I have always practiced faith over fear, and I've overcome it so many times, but it doesn't mean it's not scary, and it doesn't mean it's not real in the mind. And I went outside and cried, and I thought, I can't obey. I was never taught to obey. When we reach that level of courage in the state of consciousness, it's empowerment and courage. I want to just help as many people as I can to get to that power of courage. So having the courage by speaking up and speaking your truth is the most important thing and authentic thing that you can do for yourself. Don't downplay yourself. Don't let others downplay you. Start speaking your truth.
Hello and welcome to Power Perspectives, People, Passion, Purpose. And today I have with me a freedom-loving mother who questions the status quo. She's an empowerment coach and spiritual guide, an inspiring speaker and author of The Game of Life, Redefining Your Belief and Discovering Your True Power. After being employed by Big Pharma, a name we all know, she uncovered some treacherous intentions and, empowered by her unstoppable passion for justice, compassion, and authenticity, backed with the powerful knowledge of our legal rights, she helps others, particularly mothers, to claim their freedom and stand up for their rights. So grateful today to be talking to Kathleen Acker RAMSEY. Welcome to Power Perspectives, Kathleen.
Well, thank you so much. It's such a joy and pleasure to be here and to get to know you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, you've got so many intriguing stories for your journey, and we've discussed a little bit in the lead up to this interview. But I mean, obviously, with your experience within the big pharmaceutical industry, waking you up to some kind of incredulous human behavior, are you able to share a little bit of that journey of kind of waking up through that experience?
Well, my waking up, like I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to, has been throughout my life. But the big one, of course, hit in 2020. I've always had an inner knowing on certain things, and the way that I was raised from my dad, always telling me to question authority. Everyone's my equal. There is no such thing as authority other than creator, source, God, whatever you want to label that. But and so I always had that backing and that support to do that. And that's what's helped guide me, and to always be in honor. And so to be in honor of myself is to be in honor of creator. And when you have a bully, it's being in honor of them, because hurt people hurt people. So, and anybody that's doing something to you is doing it because they believe what they're doing, right? For
Yes.
whatever reason. And you're like, yeah, no, like that's not going to work. So in 2020, in that time frame, a year or so after, I was working. I'm in contracts, and I've negotiated globally for drug discovery. I've also been in manufacturing, but in 2020, I went to a large pharmaceutical company that was about, because this was January 2020, about to really be in the news on a daily basis,
Yeah.
like to the point where it's sickening. But being with them, I started questioning things from the very beginning. And even in January, some charts that I had seen, I started questioning, and then the charts would get removed from a training, which seemed a little bit suspicious. But you're just happy to have a job, you're a single mom, you're just going to work.
Yeah.
And it got really scary in August 4th of 21, when I received a letter or an email from somebody that was the head of HR for the US, and demanding that I do certain things. And I was like a lot of people, I think during that time, there was so much fear. And I have always practiced faith over fear, and I've overcome it so many times, but it doesn't mean it's not scary, and it doesn't mean it's not real in the mind. And I went outside and cried, and I thought, I can't obey. I was never taught to obey an equal. I can't do it. I cannot take a knee to another. And I don't even know this woman. But the one thing I do know is contracts. And so I went outside, and I, had the ugly cry. Like, oh my God, freedom's going down the hill, and my sons are not going to know it. And I can't allow that to happen. So I had the ugly cry, and I honestly, a coming to Jesus moment, where it was an inner hearing of, don't listen to the obey and just look forward. And so I went back in, and I responded to this woman named Nikki, and I I was like, so you have any email, every conversation, and I want the listeners and as many people in the world to know this, is everything's a contract. There's spiritual contracts, there's verbal contracts, there's unwritten and unspoken contracts, but there's contracts. They don't always have to be in writing. So when this unknown person sends me an email, it is an offer to contract. And so I can accept that offer, I can decline that offer, or I can take the offer. So it's on the table, I conditionally accept it. Now she can't take it back. And this is where the game comes into play. And this is the empowerment that I really want to help others understand is, so what I did is I said, you don't have jurisdiction of my body. It's one thing if somebody, an employer, wants to tell you to put on a certain shoe for your protection, because you can take that shoe off. If they want you to wear a lab coat, then you can take that lab coat off. But what they're talking about was beyond that, and their jurisdiction doesn't lie there. And I know I had conversations with people who were like, well, they can, fire you for that. No, I conditionally accepted. And when my conditions were, you show me it's safe and effective, you show me it's real, you show me it's isolated, you show me this, that, and the other. I had 17 different items. And so we began a dance, I like to say. And there's a lot of people who will say evil and good, and like positive and negative charges. You can't have all positive. You have to have the negative. You can't have all light. You have to know the dark. You can't have all love without hate, because you don't know what love really is. So it's really the dance in the middle, the sweet spot in the middle, that figure 8 in the middle where it meets, and that's the balance. So we began a dance, and other players came into play to try to put more pressure on me. And every single time was fear. And every single time it's like, when you work out and you're going to go run, you can't run 10 miles first day. And I couldn't definitely run 10 miles that first day, but I was using what I call divine law and not man-made law. And then, AI or whatever pops into my feed, and I start learning classes that are actually teaching this. And I'm taking the classes while I'm communicating back and forth, but it was an inner knowing. My correspondence and notices of claim to women and men that worked at this company were by divine guidance. And I've done this not just with them, but I helped a lot of people apply it and use it as well. And it is superior law.
Yeah, it's superior law. Like maybe 3 times already when you've been talking, I've got goosebumps. And to me, that signifies a resonance of also knowing. Just keep going. That was incredible. And I love superior law. Can you explain what that means to people that are kind of like, what do you mean divine law?
Yes, superior law. So superior law. So when I went into, I already had my college degree, and I went into a postgraduate paralegal studies program. And when I was taking that, I learned that like the man-made legal system that we're in, and really the matrix that is water. We're water. We have 70 or more % water in us, and it operates on what is known as admiralty or maritime law, UCC law. And I was like, from the beginning, I was always like, what in the world? Why are we're on land? What are we doing operating on water? And so I started asking attorneys that I was working with and getting little hints here and there. I think that not all of the attorneys are aware or know to ask, because, it's probably pretty programmed. And so when you look at any constitution or you look at any agreement, the preamble is the first paragraph. And a lot of people, especially if you are pulling things off the internet, mess that first paragraph up. It just like cringes me. But so when you look at the state constitution, the ones that I've looked at in the United States all have like Almighty God. And like the Declaration of Independence has laws of nature and nature's God and the powers of earth in that first paragraph. So that tells you that it's superior. It's above man-made law, which makes sense, right? And because you can never be above your creator. And so whatever, I'm not going to sit here and go into a debate of what you call it. To me, it's a label. I call it creator or God, and source, Buddha, whatever, chai or chi or whatever someone wants to put it, but because I don't want them to be turned off by the message. But to me, it's creator. And so created me and created the earth and the air that I breathe and the plants and everything. And that is a force to be reckoned with, that we often downplay, that we've been programmed and society has downplayed so that we could be controlled. And when you embody that and start using it and applying it, it goes above man-made, because man made the legal system. So the legal system can't be above man unless man consents. And that's where that dance begins, because we often don't know that we are consenting, because silence is consent. So you complain on Facebook about this, that, or the other, but you don't actually call someone like a congressman or a senator or whoever and say, yeah, no, I don't agree to that. And by declaring, it's in the Bible, it says that too, by declaring your truth, you set your law, because your law is above man-made law. And so when I spoke up, I was declaring my law, because I didn't use man-made legal system. I didn't quote the Constitution and that. I stuck strictly to private, to superior law, and applied that. And so it was talking to the woman, Nikki. I wasn't talking to her title. And president, CEO, I don't care what your title is. That does not, like Brad Pitt is an actor, right? He's always Brad Pitt. It doesn't matter what role he's playing. And a president of a company is always a man or a woman playing a role, and they don't get to scapegoat that. And so when the attorneys are suing the company and they're like, oh, we can't because the company is protected. Guess who isn't? The man or woman who did the action knowingly. And so you sue, or you go after, or you talk to the man or woman, and they are an agent for the principal. And the principal is always responsible for their agents while they're in the capacity of a job. So it hits them a little bit differently and makes it, I am so sorry.
No worries at all.
But,
That's powerful. Yes, and this show is called Power Perspectives. Like, your perspective is so powerful because it's a knowledge that most people don't have. We're not provided with it, obviously, in the schooling sector. That would be silly of them to empower us to know what they're doing or what's behind the curtain. But obviously, not everyone can go out and get the education that you got. So I know that you've just given us several tips of kind of how to get around things, but there's still so much of a mountain of jargon and of things that we'd have to get around. Yeah, keep sharing some more kind of tips of how to be the human that overcomes the law that isn't really protecting us or doing anything to be of service to humanity at all.
Yeah, and that's really the beauty of where we're coming to. I think that everything is coming to the surface. It's chaos. And, when you go to clean a room, often you have to make it really messy to get it clean and know what you're going to have, what trash to take out. And there's quite a bit of trash right now that we need to take out. And so that's where we are. And I think that everything has come to help us evolve in consciousness, because it's a collective consciousness. So the 100 monkey rule, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, it'll get there.
Okay. And so it's the collective consciousness that is, as I learn and I teach people, then they're going to learn and they're going to teach people too. And so the law is just looking at it differently and applying it. And for instance, you always want to look at definitions. And so when you look at the definition of individual person, people, anything like that, it's an entity, it's a corporation, it's soulless. So your name, my name, Kathleen Acker, is a corporation owned by the state health department. And I know that because of my birth certificate. And my birth certificate says live birth. So then I go to the definition of live birth in the state constitution, any state constitution in the United States, they all have the same. And I won't go into the full description because it's grotesque, but it's a product extracted from the mother and a product. So I sat there and I pondered on that. So if we're a product extracted from the mother, that's concerning. And there's reasons why, because of some laws that passed in 2012, but it came from the WHO in 1955. This definition came from the WHO in 1955, updated in 1988. So it's very important to understand the difference between being a spiritual being and you have divine law and how to apply that versus being a product that's soulless, that's owned and controlled by the government. And so it's what I do is I teach people the simplicity of that and embodying that. And when you have that, knowledge is such power, but it's not the knowledge, it's really the wisdom and knowing it inside. I can't do it for other people. I can only give you information and empower you to push you to do it. Like one example is someone that was a scientist at the same company, same players involved, and she did not want to test either. She had reached out to me. I did not know her prior, and walking her through the process. And it was like, came down to, she was so scared to just send the email, just send it. And it was like, look, I can't send it for you because it's your vibration frequency. It's your electromagnetic field of energy that really that's what sets it off. That's what makes it sparkle. Okay. When you're sparkling, the negative energy can't come in. Because you're putting that force around you and you're exuding it, and so when she pushed it, she was so scared, and then she got another one and she did it again, and now she has left there, opened up her own business, is doing extremely well. And, she's bold and courageous and goes up to people and asks questions. And just to see that transformation is fantastic. And I learned from her too. That's one of the beautiful things is we help each other. We're not alone, and we're not supposed to be alone.
I love that. And you've probably collected like a plethora of lessons through this experience, and not just how to go from using your fear to being empowered by it. You're also teaching others and teaching others to teach others. That's where change takes place, and real change, a revolution. And it's very awakening to have that energy. And I like how you said, it needed to be her vibration. That's a resonance that is her own to create the ripples and the ripple effect. So I love that. But in your journey of this experience, you've, as I said, collected huge lessons, but can you share one that's been most particularly impactful to you? Or are there too many?
Well, there's a lot, but the most impactful to me is it's all been a constant learning experience for me, and standing up. I think the first one was definitely the hardest, but I mean, I've gone up against the general counsel and head of HR and stood my ground. And it's always something. And so for me, I'll tell you a story, because I put the name God, which is so funny. I put it in all my correspondence because, I am of my creator God, and I am living, and I am a woman, and I have rights, and I do not consent to give any up, now, past, present, future, and I have a certain saying that I say. And then I'm always asking. One of the things that I can't say enough is you always want to have a compassionate heart. It's so essentially important that, we're coming from a heart of compassion, because it starts there. And so I always ask, like, hey, Nikki, is it your intention? Because intention's everything.
Yes.
Is it your intention to trespass on property of I, meaning my body, by way of harm, loss, extortion, murder? I'm not exactly sure your intention, so I just want to cover the ground. But always being humbled by saying, if I've harmed you in any way, let me know so I can give remedy, because that's divine law. But one of the things is, I had a boss, and I really liked her, but she did struggle with her belief in spirituality. And I'm sure HR had told her to give me a call. So we were on Zoom, and she says to me, you can't say God in your paperwork. That goes against everything. And I go, I got to be honest with you. It's as if a voice came in and took over, because I didn't recognize the voice. And I was like, what's
You're
going on?
channeling. You're channeling.
And oh my gosh, it was like, excuse me? We are one nation, and nations in the Bible, right? We are one nation under God, and every currency, every dollar, every coin you spend is in God we trust, and God is in every contract you and I do, because it's a force majeure act of God. And I mean, she just like bowed down her head, and like she was speechless and didn't know what to
Wow.
say. At the same time, I'm like, holy shit, where did that come? And but it was true. And I was like, are we a communist country, or are we a communist company? And she was like, I don't know what to say. I'm gonna have to talk to HR. And I was like, okay.
Oh, there's so much red tape in our vernacular that we can't even just exist in some of these places without the fear of being sued, or the fear of being left out, or the fear of being pushed out. And then where do you find authenticity anymore? Like, one of the things I really liked when I was looking you up and more on your website, and I want to ask you about the principles in your book, actually, The Game of Life, but you speak a lot about authenticity and tying that to compassion. How do you show up? And you show up very authentic, but how do you help people that you're coaching to show up more authentically when they're programmed, maybe like this woman, to like, I don't even know what to say because I don't even know whose voice I'm speaking from. I'm so accustomed to being programmed and having to spit that out that when there isn't an answer, I don't have a me to revert to. How do you teach authenticity?
It's it's a journey that I walk through, and I meet people on their level. But one of the things that I start with is breathing, and I do heart focused breathing. And because a heart that is in a coherent state is going to align your internal systems, and then that's going to kick in your intuition. Your heart, if you look at science, the heart has it controls more than what we were told. It's not the mind, it's the heart. It comes from the heart, and it's the heart of the matter, really. If you look into a bunch of sacred geometry and different areas and
Absolutely.
scientific and that, you'll discover that it's the heart of the matter, and the heart sends up the intuition, and it's powerful. And because I always wondered, like, how do I kick in my intuition? How do I know my intuition? Because we're dumbed down, right? And I don't mean that like, but I literally have a book right here that says The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. It's like this thick. And
Mm.
so when I say dumbed down, I'm not saying that as an insult, but want to fit in. We want to be liked. We care what other people think. And it's breaking that chain and really meeting people where they are, because some people, there's going to be more of the people pleasing because of the beaten down
Hmm.
that they've taken, than other people who are like ready to go. And I find it sometimes that people who think, oh yeah, I've got this, and I was that way too. I really had to humble myself and find and meet myself and let go of a lot. So
Mm.
it's letting go. But the heart, breathing, when you're upset, when you're depressed, when you're sad, you hold your breath. And so breathing is, and there's all kinds of breathing techniques that I do,
Yeah,
but that's the one I use with my clients. I teach them all heart focused breathing.
that's incredible. And it's our inherent gift to ourselves every moment is a breath. And we learn a lot in yoga and pranayama and different techniques, but it always comes back to that, what you have, resetting. And I like what you said about the heart. I was taught it's 5,000 times more electromagnetically powerful than the brain, and who's sending who what messages, and they work together. The three brains, I've been told, actually, with the gut brain. But I love that that's a fundamental of your coaching, because it's just getting back to what you already have. Love that. And from your book, like The Game of Life, what are some of the principles that you go through with your audience, with your readers?
Yeah, I love my book. I do.
Good.
And just so you know, like I started writing my book about a week, and I had a dream that the outline, I go through thoughts, our energy and motion, which are emotions, and then that creates your action, whether it be a reaction or a response. But I had that dream a week before I got the email from Nikki. And so I was writing the book during all of this and had to rewrite some of it.
Wow.
But I go over 7 of the, like the law of oneness, laws of nature, laws of oneness, polarity, gender. And I start there. And then in my book, I give dash actions
Cool.
and simple. It's not like, oh, it's going to take me 3 months to incorporate this. They're very simple dash actions. And the dash is the day you're born, and then there's the dash on the day you pass. And that dash is your life. And so let's live that life to the fullest. When you can see life as a game, you can start seeing things differently and start taking back the game controller. And you can start finding the exit to the matrix. And each one of us has a different porthole to pass, or multiple. And it's just playing life as a game and letting go. You have to let go of all the past. I know that we love to hold on to that past and that luggage. We want to carry it with us, but it's not serving our best interests, and it's actually keeping us, and it gets really heavy. So learning to let go of that, I take it through like a butterfly stage, and then the visualization of creating your own movie and creating your own song. And then at the end, on chapter 10, I have a game plan, and that starts in your day. When you have a routine where, if you're in corporate, like I was for 30 years, I had this routine that was not mine, right? I had to get up at a certain time and I had to be out the door. And if my kids, God forbid, had an issue or something like that, it put more stress on me to get them ready, to get them out the door, to get them to school so that I could, get in traffic and drive. And, oh, that's all exhausting. You're
Yeah.
exhausted before you got to work, but it's someone else's rhythm. So it's when you start and end your day with intention, then you become so powerful and you create your own natural rhythm. It's the law of rhythm, the law of vibration kicks in, the law of attraction. And so the book does it, but it does it in a very simple way. I think it's very simple. So I took all what I know and was like, how can I make it so simplified? And so
I
that's
love that.
just to that one.
I love that, and have so many similarities. I'm writing a book. I've been forever writing this book, but I've got a lot of kind of similar angles. But obviously, I mean, you have this great grand background, and I love that you've incorporated the laws. Like, are you a fan of the Kabbalion, the Hermetic principles, the law of rhythm and polarity and mentalism and gender, and they just show up in everything. That to me, they're undeniable. You don't have to believe them, but they are there. And like you said at the beginning, there's no love without apathy or hate. There's no light without dark. We don't know one without the other. And, I've studied that for a long time. And it's one thing to read it, it's another thing to embody its principles and actually calm to a stressor or a bully, as you said before. And that can be hard. It's a whole different ballgame applying those principles of wisdom and to have them explained simply. I can't wait to get your book. I'm very excited to read The Game of Life.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been toying with it, just having a course just on that too,
Yeah.
because I mean, I'm very passionate about it, and I'm going to create a workbook to go with it, just to help people in a fun way in applying it. But right now I am focused on speaking truth and getting that out there. And thank you, because it is the laws. They're so powerful.
Mhm.
And we're not taught that in school. We're not taught legal. We're not taught how to speak up for a reason, right? Because then
Mhm.
we're not controlled. If you can speak up, but what a beautiful world we're creating by speaking up and by applying these laws and about learning about them. But I will tell you, my hardest one was the law of one.
Mm. And how did you break through the other side? Or are you kind of always opening up to it?
I think that's well, like all of them, it's not none of this is a one and done. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I finally hit 5th grade. Maybe I'm at 5th grade with the law of one. Um, this past 4 years has definitely helped me embrace the law of one. When I write Nikki or anyone, and because I'm standing up, I've written, by the way, a lot of people. I've stood up and some people have stepped down, health departments, school, state levels. But when I write them, I envision that they're standing in front of me and that I'm going to talk to them like a conversation like you and I are having. And I know that, like she's coming and she's like, you're supposed to do this because I've been told to do this and I've been programmed to do this. And this is the script. And I know it's a script because I might have a marketing agreement that says so. But I know that it's a script that she's reading and she's been, she's accepted that as a belief. Lie is in the middle of the word belief. I have faith. I don't have belief. So that, first of all, is when you can have the oneness, you can see the front and the back of the person, right? And be like, okay, I'm coming at her from, I want to stand in her shoes too. She's scared. And so she's acting from a state of fear. But then I put it on steroids because I had the pleasure of going back to court with my ex for the third time after 13 years. And I won't get into all of it, but I decided to be present as myself and apply the divine laws. But then there's a lot, there's a lot of people in this realm that say you have to do this, that, or the other. And I thought, I'm going to create my own path and see what happens.
Beautiful.
And it hurt what he was doing, on a soul level. It really broke me on a soul level. Because we have sons together. And I decided to take an entire week and every single day sit with that feeling and allow myself the anger, the hate, the frustration, the abandonment, like, how dare you? You took an oath to protect me and now you're doing this for the third time, as if the others weren't bad enough. And so I really allowed myself for the first time to really feel it. Because prior, I had two small kids to take care of, and I was single mom. He wasn't involved for a long time. So, I had to work. You're going through the motions. I didn't have time to sit with it. So I allowed myself a week, and each day it was building up on the law of oneness. And then I was in the shower because water is a conductor, right? And so I'm taking a shower and I do a lot of my praying in the shower. I have the greatest insights in the shower.
Beautiful.
And I almost have to keep the paper right next to sometimes. And I had this moment, and it was like all the people that I've maybe hurt in my life or that have hurt me coming like a tunnel. I had my eyes closed and it was like being in a tunnel and seeing both sides, like I've hurt people that have hurt me, and just this love of, it was all to help evolve my consciousness. And at the end, it's him and I facing each other. And it was the beauty of, as much as I am hurt, we had a soul agreement for him to do this so that I could level up in consciousness and help others. And I just started crying because I thought, at a soul level, there's such love. But on a 3D level, there's so much hate.
Yeah.
So I am not done with that. It's a constant, game.
There's the knowledge of it, and then there's the wisdom of the experience without the emotional charge. And I think, like, just to have that insight is ahead of the game, is your advanced game of life is what you're playing. But I think that that's so empowering when you can take, okay, this horrible thing that is happening, I can flip it on its head and be now in my power with it, knowing, all right, we agreed to this. I agreed to this because I knew I wanted to level up. This was the theme I chose, and this is the person that we agreed to do the work. And I think really it's going to sound weird, but in the book Conversations with God, I don't know if you've ever read that. I love that, especially the third one. But it's really like the people that love you the most, you love the most, that soul will come to hurt you the most, because that's the only one that really could, that you agreed to. So, that cringe factor when you think of that person that you're just like, is really you're like the best, the tightest with, in this other layer of the evolution of consciousness of the scheme of the soul. So but it definitely gives you a different energy when you can hold that. But holding it in 3D is a whole other skill set. So that's inspiring that you've shared that. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah. And it's, we're kind of like alone, right? And then we're not supposed to be. So it's having conversations like this and meeting people like yourself that is so, it's such a blessing, because it's like we're not alone in this. And whoever's listening to this, you're not alone. You may feel alone. I felt isolated. Like I lost all my friends and family over the last 4 years for standing up. I've been talked about, and because I stood up pretty big in my community. And so I had people secretly saying, "Oh my God, thank you so much." But I had people verbally doing the opposite, right? And
Right.
saying unbelievable, making up things about my sons and stuff like that. And that forgiveness, that's why forgiveness is, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Man, did I have to use that a lot? But it's the beauty in all that, right? Is finding that.
Yeah. Then that takes so much strength and understanding, like understanding that you really have to be ignorant, and without it trying to be an insult, but someone that can cause so much deliberate pain with deliberately malicious intention really has to be ignorant about all of the one, because they would not be trying to do that to themselves. And if you are doing it to another, you really don't understand that we're all one. You can't. So I have to, for me, I choose to look at it then as like, okay, that's just ignorance, and that's not um, as malicious as I think. It's just that they do not know what they're doing. And then that, calls for more compassion and more love. And you kind of must wonder, and it's easy for me to say, I haven't been attacked by, some place like where you have been, where that's big money and people do messed up things for money. And especially in the name of like, let's insult this lady because it makes me feel more powerful. And then the people that are secretly congratulating you, but like that should be switched on its head. We should be empowering people to, if we all stand up together, they don't have a platform to push us down on. So this conversations like this, movements like this, your book, anything, getting anything like that out there just helps us grow and expand that. Now you shared a lot about, and like being a mom, how has that, what do you think the experience would have been different if you had this job but you didn't have kids? Because I know it's a big deal to know, I don't want my children to grow up in this world where they would feel something that I'm feeling right now. Would it have changed the outcome, that because you're a mother, or if you weren't, do you think?
I I don't know, because I will say that that was definitely a moving force inside of me
Right.
on so many levels. I mean, I went to the state school board, local and county school board. I talked to every single teacher and I stood up to some. Um, and I don't want to forget that, but I want to go back to one thing.
Mm.
I did go up against some powers that be. And I also, and I can't even tell you, when I was writing, I was in I was just writing from my heart. At the end of it, I put that I do not consent to any harm. And I have a list of things, and I revoke. And when I say the word revoke, I feel it in every fiber and cell in my body. So that went out.
Mm.
And there was conversations that I was going to have with my boss, was the general counsel. We're not talking about like
Mm.
peons here. And not that anyone is a peon, but I mean, like because
Yeah.
we imagine like, oh, somebody that's an attorney is up here, which really they're wherever, but they're no different, right? It was just a woman, and who is my equal, and I letting her know that. But it's about revoking. I don't consent, and no is a complete sentence. And but so I want to go back to that. But as far as the kids go, yeah, it was a moving force for me. I mean, I did go up to the state school board and spoke. And I prayed while I was in there. I was just praying, and because everybody, 70 people were talking, and they're all talking about the masks on our kids, because I'm in Illinois, and um we had it the longest. There was only 14 states that were remaining. And so I was there and I said, everybody's saying the same thing. Let me say something differently. And so I tore up my script and I just went up there. And when I spoke, I said, you know, you all have the chance and the opportunity to be heroes, to be Toto. In The Wizard of Oz, you have that opportunity to do something extraordinarily great right now, to pull back the veil on the Grand Wizard of Oz who's controlling it all. And when I walked out, it was recorded and there was, you know, protesters and everything for the masks outside. And they were all like, it's the Wizard of Oz lady.
You
So
had the magic all along, my dear.
yeah, yes. And I've loved that since I saw that movie. The movies tell us a lot. And
Yeah.
I've always been one of those people who are like, oh my God, did you get that whole meaning? And people that are sitting with me are like, you're so weird. Like, there's nothing in there. You're reading into it. And I'm like, no, I mean, it was really clear. How did you not get the same message? And but one of the things, like even speaking up to teachers to let them know, there was a lot of pressure for the kids to obey and to be like everybody else and to do things. And then um, at school, the coach for my son had said, you need to put this in your body. And so I went up to her and the head coach and met with them. I had a letter, and this is what I teach in my course is, and I had to really work through the anger before I could go up there, right? Of course, I wanted
Yeah.
to be up there in a short period of time, so I had to really work through it quick. But when I did, I was like, "Are you a doctor? Where can I see your doctor's license?" And she was like, "No, I'm not a doctor." And I said, "Because you were given medical advice." She was like, "I wasn't given medical advice." And I said, "It depends how you look at this, but are you aware of this?" Because I have evidence and I have documents. So I took them with me.
Yeah, good. Keep
And
them on you.
sometimes I only, if it's 80 pages or 100 pages or whatever, I only take the cover and I'm like, if you want the rest, I'm happy to supply it for you. Um, but I was like, you're not a doctor, and there will be none of this going on. And even like the county health department said, oh, your son's going to have to stay home because he was exposed to something. And I said, yeah, you don't have jurisdiction. So that he's going to be there without any harm, or I don't consent to that. And she was like, started questioning me. So I started questioning her. Where's your jurisdiction? You can go up to the state health department. By their way, they already have a letter from me, correspondence from me, but you can go up to them and just questioning, like, where are you getting your information from? Because are you removing people? Because you're saying this number and the number's higher than what's in the county because you forgot to remove people.
Mm.
Because you're double counting them. Someone got tested, think about it, twice a week. They didn't remove them, and they were there every week.
Ugh. So, like, childishly manipulated, it's not even intelligently. I mean, they've manipulated us from whatever angle they can. But one thing I really wanted to ask you, because you just have so many good advices for this, but like, what are the top, say, three things that you wish more people knew about their legal rights? When we can do for mothers, or we can do for just in general, but what are some good, maybe top three things if you have them handy?
Top three things. First of all, know that you are a spiritual being and you have God-given rights. And those trump, so they are superior. They are above. Doesn't get any higher. So any government, doctor, any title fictitious, they're acting as an entity. They're acting as, a fictitious authority. They are below you in the totem pole. They are not above you. So that's number one. Number two is to be authentic to your soul, is to speak up and to have that voice. And it's okay to be scared, but it's very empowering to teach others to speak up. And it doesn't take all the knowledge that I have. I teach it as simply as I can. And it's just knowing and having a voice, not trying to people please. We're switching the world. And then breathe.
Mm.
I mean, seriously, you got to constantly be breathing. And people are like, well, I do that on a regular basis. It's mindful. A mindful breathing practice, it calms and regulates your soul. And when your heart's in a coherent state, you know, clarity comes.
Mm, absolutely. Those are great tips and a great reminder also. And like knowing all that you know now with the wisdom that you have from these experiences, what advice would you go back and give yourself, say, before you push send on that first email, very frightened and scared and feeling isolated and alone, like many people will be inevitably, but what advice might you have for them before they're about to engage with their authentic voice?
Yeah, I would imagine myself sitting there with a cheerleading squad, like rooting for me and like, yeah, you did it. Like the team, like, so it's a game and finding your tribe and reaching out to people it is really important because you can feel very isolated and we're building a new world and finding like-minded people to really it means sometimes letting go of a lot of your old friends and family and shedding that it's like shedding skin and it doesn't mean that you don't love them. It doesn't mean that they won't come around someday, but you're leading the way. We're leading the way. We're leading the path forward to a new world that's kind and loving and compassionate. So I think being right there with me in that moment, it was the coming to Jesus moment where I was just like, I mean, it was just in me. It was like, you're doing this. And I was like, okay. Um, I hope that everybody can feel that. I want everybody to know that they have that. It's like a light inside that's igniting. And I often talk to my future self and my past self,
Hmm.
especially before bed, and instruct them.
It's a great exercise. It's a great way to catch yourself up and to prepare yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you ask and you will receive. I tell my future self, hey, future self, I'm going to need some messages through my sleep that I remember when I wake up. And, I've done the glass of water next to my bed, drink it half and then half, in the morning and different things. And I mean, just honor that, honor yourself.
Beautiful. And I'd love to ask you too, like you've obviously got a unique spiritual energy. Can you share maybe what has been your greatest spiritual experience to date or like what's been most impactful or moving to you? Had an influence on who you are today?
Yeah, I've always had this faith within me. I would, out of everything that I've done, the most moving part was the shower that I told you about, where the oneness came because I'm still working on some of that forgiveness.
Mhm.
It is a process, but I know that it was part of my mission and purpose was to have my ex and for us to go to court. And I mean, I brought God court, God's in court, full on. Still going on. But I learned so much from that, but I also learned love at a different level.
Mm, that's beautiful. And I mean, that's why we're here, I think, right? Continue to learn love at a ever evolving level. Thank you so much. One of my last questions here for you. What do you wish more people knew about your work, about what you do, or about just the game of life in general? What do you wish more people were kind of switched on to?
Everybody has the power within them. Everyone. It's not like I'm special. I had let me tell you real quick. When I was a little girl, I had this reoccurring dream that has stayed with me and my entire life. And I'm on this huge staircase and I'm helping pull people up. And I look over and I'm like, okay, now you got to help. And so people start helping. So and then other people are like helping push other people up to the next stair because it's big. And then they're pulling us up. And at one point I have to turn around and people that I've helped are now pulling me up. So we're in this together. And just because I might know something doesn't mean that you're not going to help pull me up. So the more that when we reach that level of courage in the state of consciousness, it's empowerment and courage. I want to just help as many people as I can to get to that power of courage. So having the courage by speaking up and speaking your truth is the most important thing and authentic thing that you can do for yourself. Don't downplay yourself. Don't let others downplay you. Start speaking your truth.
The full body goosebumps there. I'm in total resonance with that, and just like, yeah, that's amazing. And it's resonating because it's true for all of us, and we know that. And if you don't know it, remember it. That's incredible. Where can we find you, Kathleen? Where can people work with you, and where can we get the book?
So the book is on Amazon. It's also on my website. So it's on Amazon, The Game of Life. It's going to pull up Florence Shovel Shine. But so if you put Kathleen in there, it should pull up mine. And I have a website, and that website is www or thegameoflife101.com. So you have to put in THE, thegameoflife101.com. And that has my social media down there. And I have a course, Speak Your Truth. And the new course, I'm in it right now. I've got 2 more weeks, and then I'm starting another one in mid-July. So you can go ahead and sign up if you want more information. There's a lot of information on my website, but I like to know who's signing up. I like to know them because I'm working with you individually as well as a group. So it's a group course, but I also am working with each person. So it's called Speak Your Truth for Soul Alignment, and social media is all on there. So reach
Wow. Well, I'll put links in the description to
me.
how to reach you. But I think I downloaded an ebook just now for free, which is amazing that you have this free offering also. So like make your way to find Kathleen, because it's very empowering, and not just the information, but the energy at which you share the information. You know that is moving forward and creating more ripples of your love. So thank you so much. And thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it, Kathleen.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's been such honestly an honor to meet you and to get to know you more. And I really want to stay connected. And this was truly, I really greatly appreciate it.